Hello, friends and family. This is Stephen Wilson here. I want to share a story about an event that was encouraging to us, and I believe would be encouraging to you as well. In January of 2018, I received a call from Miguel Tello from Familia Feliz in Rio Grande, Bolivia. He said that there was a man who was in a motorcycle accident. He had smashed his face and broken bones and internal injuries, and they were requesting a flight. Here's a picture of the man. They said that they had no money to help with the cost of a flight, and they asked if I had money and if I could help cover the cost of the flight. And at the moment, I did have enough money to pay for that flight. However, that flight would cost about as much as all the money that we had for the rest of the month. And for a moment, I had a thought about how am I going to feed my family for the rest of the month. However, then I thought about Bible verses like James 4:17. If you know something is good and you don't do it, then it is sin. Or Acts 20:35, where it says it is better to give than to receive. Or Matthew 6:33, where it says, don't worry about what you will eat or drink or what you will wear, but seek first the kingdom of God. So I told them, yeah, I have money. I can pay for the flight, because it was true. I did have enough money to pay for the flight. You know, I had that in my pocket. And if I said I didn't have enough money to pay for the flight, then that wouldn't really have been true. Here's some short video clips of the flight. So then, after I made the flight, we had peace and joy about what we'd done. These flights are an excellent opportunity to share with the people who are involved, because it opens doors. And then Tim Tillman, the accountant at Gospel Ministries International, sent me a message telling me how much donors had donated. And, then I come to find out, after I made that medical flight that spent all the money that we had for the rest of the month, we then had 10 times as much money as before the flight. And it turned out then that way more than provided for what we needed for the rest of that month. And it provided for a number of other medical flights that we did for free for people who had no money but needed help. And this experience made me think of when Jesus fed the 5,000. You can read that in Matthew 14 and John 6. So you can, before I made the medical flight, we had scarce resources, but in that story of Jesus feeding the 5,000, Jesus told his disciples, give all these people something to eat. And they said, but there's just a boy here who has 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Talk about scarce resources, but God's economy works a little differently. And so what happened in that story? That boy took everything he had to eat and he gave it to Jesus' disciples. Then the disciples took everything they had and gave it to Jesus when Jesus told them, bring it to me. And then Jesus prayed and asked God to bless it. And then Jesus gave it back to his disciples, and his disciples then gave it to the 5,000 men, and there were women and children beside the 5,000 men. And in the act of Jesus and his disciples giving it to the crowd of people, it was multiplied. And then what happened? Everybody ate. The crowd ate, and there were leftovers from the 5 loaves and 2 fish. And the disciples then picked up all the leftovers and had 12 baskets of leftovers. And then Jesus and his disciples ate, and then they gave it back to the people to take home with them. So they gave it back to the people again, the resources that were multiplied. And just imagine that boy taking his food, his leftovers back home and saying, look, and telling the story. But that's kind of what happened in our experience. We took everything we had. We received it from donors a little bit, some scarce resources, and then we took everything and gave it to people in need. And then in that act, God moved more donors to donate. And then resources were multiplied, and we had resources to give back even more, just like in the story of the feeding 5,000. And one thing about that story is, if your hand is open to give to people who need, your hand is also open to receive. Ellen White, commenting about the feeding of the 5,000 in the Desire of Ages book, The Desire of Ages, she comments about this, and she says, we can receive only as we impart to others. As we continue imparting, we continue to receive, and the more we impart, the more we shall receive. Thus we may be constantly believing, trusting, receiving, and imparting. I just wanted to share this story because I believe it would encourage a lot of people. I just want to thank everybody who has given your 5 loaves and 2 fish. That signifies a sacrifice on your part. But I just wanted to share this story so that those who gave their 5 loaves and 2 fishes can share in the joy that we've had in giving, because they as well too were part of this story, just like the boy had his part in feeding the 5,000. Thank you, and God bless.